Hello, dear friends. I was planning to rest today, but current events force me to report. Without crisis, there are no challenges. Without challenges, life is a routine, a slow agony. Without crisis, there is no merit, said Albert Einstein. Opinion piece. Turbulent Times. All is set for the event. Signs of purge in China and the US. Transformation is just around the corner. Financial markets are under severe stress. No one can give a date. Nobody can give a date because there are so many variables. Collective free will can change a course of action. This is like an avalanche, rapidly gaining more momentum. Donald Trump calls for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. P-8 Poseidon crew arrested over Nord Stream explosions. Let's start. We see that they are staging a scare event to wake people up. Remember, the coalition gave us hints on how to prepare for the events. It seemed strangely quiet all weekend, but I hear the QFS system won't care if it's a weekend or not. We are just watching and waiting for that shoe to drop. We are all sick of corruption and tired of how long it takes to clean house in every country. Times are going to get more turbulent, says White Cloud. He asks us to hold on the love that we are. It will feel like we are in a washing machine. Through it all he advises return to love. Deep is the darkness, and long is the night. Solid is the water, and liquid is the light. Campbell McGrath. I invite you to enter into the stillness of your being, to rest in this moment of stillness, a moment that it is almost like a pause. However, it can be noisy, chaotic, and there can be agitation. Whether those energies are within your being or outside of you, you can always enter into the stillness, a pause within your being, where you remember your truth, as if you are contemplating your divine essence, reminding yourself of who you are, your mission and your purpose. Determination. Having taken over the free will of humankind, we are in the driver's seat to make the revaluation of currencies happen, and there is not much perceived resistance now. To stay on the premise of the greatest good for all, the implementation of these changes requires a little more time, but veteran white hats say there is no time at all, in quotes, because happening now has to happen with maximum benefit and minimum destruction. It cannot be done literally this second, but must follow a very intelligent gradual process. This would be a reasonable interpretation of the famous phrase, "It is happening now," in quotes. This is a matter of best judgment as to what would be the best course of action. Randra is of the opinion that between now and a month from now would be a good interpretation of the what now to happen in the collective free will of humankind. This means that we should set the collective intention for it to happen now, that is to say in about a month's time, before the midterm elections, if they are held. He adds that the coalition is striving to adopt a course of action to give us currency revaluation within a month or so, or faster, if possible, within the scope of the greater good for all that is. The determination of what would be the best course of action to give us is neither an open nor a closed case. That is to say, it's not a single course of action, as many future variables come into it. especially free will decisions that have the potential to drastically change a course of action. There are therefore many possible options as to what might be the best course of action. In this context, what is important for us is to exercise our free will and set the intention for it to happen right now, that is to say, within a month at the latest, which will allow the coalition to choose the fastest possible realistic course of action for the maximum benefit of all beings. This does not mean that it will happen, but that we have the power to make it happen. But more importantly, no matter what happens, let us continue to strengthen, affirm and consolidate the collective free will of humankind, so that it happens now and not later. This is like an avalanche rapidly gaining more momentum and overwhelming power, with nothing to stand in its way. Welcome, humankind, as a proud species of the galactic community, for now taking responsibility for its own destiny. All is ready. According to intelligence sources, everything is in place for a black swan event with the collapse of the banking system, along with governments around the world. Stock markets are bouncing up and down with a downward trend. Once this event is triggered, it to spread around the world, take us out of trust banking and into asset-backed banking based on Basel III, which could be the basis for debt Duality. There are many indications that Pentagon figures in high-ranking positions are being removed, according to the signed pieces being published. The military reports that it is cleaning house and has sent several generals to jury trials. We also see this in China, where some CCP military leaders are also leaving. Now they are talking about the EBS emergency broadcasting system having the right of way to broadcast on TV, radio, phone and internet. The media can't stop this or risk losing the license. What do you think the next step in this film will be? Duality. Building duality. On this long and arduous road, so full of loneliness and despair, as we harvest the grapes of anger, as we escape the dragon's laying blessings through our pain, emotions strip our soul like tears washed away by rain, crying out for a final understanding as we crawl alone in the darkness, holding spirits silently demanding until it ceases and finds the spark. Believing duality exists when the truth was never spoken. Freedom is just around the corner. We'll be so bold, and yet we are bought and sold. Only good children go to heaven for all the lies we are told. Waiting, growing old. The whole glass has broken, spilling the sands of time. So much gold is mere tokens. Children's stories in our minds, letting go of what never was in one aspect of this two-dimensional concept of the duality of madness when all we had was unity. Reset news. Many banks in the country closed from September 30 to October 5th or October 9th, with the back date of October 20 for India for the changeover. Credit Suisse's 1.3 billion euro sale of its headquarters reportedly fails, seems to be in desperate need to raise cash. OPEC Plus has cut its oil production and the US is panicking, but the real concern is not about higher oil prices, but about the future of the dollar. The real fate of the petrodollar rests with Saudi Arabia. You should watch this carefully. The US benefits from the European energy crisis by selling gas at exorbitant prices. Experts are worried of the stock market recovery. In a context of great uncertainty in the face of runaway inflation, aggressive central bank policy and foreseeable globalization, experts are worried of the stock market recovery and predict that the coming quarters could be critical. Financial markets are under severe stress while credit markets are collapsing, according to Stephen Van Meter. Credit markets are on the brink of collapse as higher interest rates and tighter credit standards are putting the financial system under severe pressure. For consumers and businesses that have tapped into their credit lines to take on record amounts of debt, this could not come at a worse time. A repeat of the 2008 financial crisis is just beginning. Armageddon. North Korea has just fired second ballistic missile, with the first one passing over Japan and the second towards Hawaii. The US government has bought $290 million in emergency radioactivity drugs. On Thursday, Joe Biden said the world is, in quotes, at the highest risk of nuclear catastrophe of Armageddon since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis and the war in Ukraine, a statement that quickly turned the world upside down, raising alarm, even though there is no proof that Russia is planning to use nuclear weaponry. French President rebukes Biden for his warning of nuclear Armageddon. Sabotage paralyzes rail traffic in northern Germany. The Russians have a submarine with an end-of-the-world device that could create a tidal wave over 300 meters high, supposedly, and now it has disappeared and no one knows where it is. P-8 Poseidon crew arrested over Nord Stream explosion. The pilots and crew of a US Navy P-8 Poseidon anti-submarine aircraft that flew over the now damaged sections of the Nord Stream gas pipelines were arrested by the Army on Thursday night. P-8 Poseidon pilots say they were not there when Nord Stream exploded, according to Michael Baxter. The pilots arrested over the Nord Stream explosion complained and told investigators Friday that their plane, which took off the Keflavik Air Station, Iceland, was hundreds of miles from the underwater natural gas pipelines when the explosions occurred. Military flight tracking data backs up his claim. Ukraine. Donald Trump calls for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine to avoid World War III. It comes after Ukraine's president signed a decree against holding peace talks with the Russian president. Trump said it's necessary for Russia and Ukraine to start negotiations immediately, or else the crisis could turn into a third world war and cause global destruction. Russia destroys a Ukrainian warehouse with more than 200 missiles in the Nikolaev region. Crimean bridge linking the peninsula to Russia damaged in an explosion with 3 dead. Putin blames Ukrainian special services for the Crimean bridge explosion. Russia completely disconnects the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Americas. Julia becomes a hurricane before making landfall in the Caribbean. Argentina passes second IMF review and agrees $3.8 billion. Colombia will not sign new hydrocarbon exploration contracts. The Peruvian Public Prosecutor's Office will seek in Chile to extend Fujimori's extradition. Opposition demands suspension of trials against Catholic priests in Nicaragua. The OAS pledges to address the crisis in Nicaragua and Haiti at the close of its annual assembly. Haiti calls for the immediate deployment of international military forces. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.